have any. You see the difference? Spirits don't have a physiology like we do to experience emotions in the same way that we do. Okay, follow me. And this is what Patrick brought up. He goes, because they are spirit, they are pure intellect. Pure intellect. Okay? Now, there is, in the scriptures, references to the angels having some kind of emotional experience, both holy and evil. They have some kind of what we would call feeling, but it's not bodily related. It must be an intellectual a stimulation of some kind. That's the best way I can describe it. Because they don't have bodies like we do, physical bodies. They have a spirit body. Okay, they're spirits. You with me? So I want to go over some of these. So let's go to Genesis 19. Let's start here. So these are both what we would term emotional reactions of angels. So Genesis 19:15 says, "The morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, 'Arise, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are in here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city.' But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him, and they brought him forth and set him outside." Now, you get the idea. These are angels trying to get Lot out of the city of Sodom before God destroys it. And it says they urged him to get out. So there's a sense of urgency that they feel towards him, to the point where he's kind of dilly-dallying. And so it says they seized him and drug him out of the city. So that implies that they have some sort of, we got to get this thing done, right? So there's a sense of urgency that they can feel. You get that? Okay. Let's look at the book of Job. Book of Job. I'm going to go through these somewhat quickly. Job. 38. Chapter 38, verse 4 and 7. This is God answering Job's objections. You know, like, "Why am I suffering, Lord?" And he says, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know." Right? You want to know all this? Well, in other words, God's saying, "I'm God. Where are you? Do you have any right to no. Shut up. Where were you when I was determining the measurements of the earth? Surely you know. Or where its base is sunk, or who laid the cornerstone, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy." Did you hear that? Who are the morning stars and the sons of God? Well, in this case, when he's talking about the foundations of the earth, he's talking about the original creation. So the sons of God and the morning stars are the angels. And it says what? They sang and shouted for joy. So there's a sense of elation. Let's look at the book of Psalms. Keep going. Psalm 38. Psalm 38, verses 4 and 7. Okay, Psalm 38, 4 and 7? That doesn't seem right. Is it Psalm 37, 4 and 7? Yeah, but the next one is Psalm. Why did I put that? That's not what I want. Oh, no.
What? Psalms 38? Yeah, Psalms 38.
Is it 39? No, it's not here. Darn. I thought I wrote it right. I could have mistaken it. Let me see, just make sure. No, this isn't it. Oh well. Sorry. No, I put these verses from, and I thought I pasted them on here properly, but apparently not. Let's go to Luke 15. Luke 15. Skip that, Luke 15. And the Psalms also talk about the sons of God shouting for joy. That was basically what I wanted you to read. So Luke 15, verse 10. This is the story of the lost coin. You know, the lady who has 10 coins, loses one, sweeps the whole house and finally finds it. Verse 9, and when she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice for me, for I found the coin which I have lost." Just so I tell you, there is joy before the angels of God over a sinner who repents. You hear that? So Jesus says that the angels rejoice. There's joy that they experience over a sinner who repents. Okay? Matthew 8, 31. Matthew 8, 31. This is an example of the evil, the fallen angels. Okay? So this is Jesus healing the demoniac of Garadine, the Garadine demoniac, this man that was possessed with a bunch of demons. And verse 29, and behold, they cried out, "What do you have to do with us, O Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" Okay. Now a herd of many swine was feeding in some distance, and the demons begged him, "If you cast us out, send us into the herd of swine." And he said to them, "Go." And so they came out into the swine, and behold, the whole herd rushed down the steep bank and perished in the waters. So what they said here is they begged him, or in some translations, they urged him. So again, this sense of urgency. Like the holy angels trying to get Lot out of Sodom, the demons were worried on how Jesus was going to treat them, so they urged him to just have them go into the pig swine herd rather than torment them before his time. So there's a sense of fear that they have before the Lord and a sense of urgency as to what their fate will be. You have a question?
So if demonic angels can enter a pig, then good angels can enter us also?
Probably, but most likely wouldn't.
Why?
Because it's not their place. It's not their place.
And did that kill them?
Yes, the pigs went over the swine herd and died.
But they were spirits, so...
No, the demons didn't die, the pigs died.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, then they're released and they went wherever. Yeah, they went somewhere else. Yeah. Because as spirits, God created them immortal, like humans are immortal. James 2:19. James 2:19. This is towards the end of the scriptures. James 2:19.
What page, please?
194. You believe that God is one. You do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. Did you hear that?
Yes.
They shudder, they fear, they tremble. So again, it implies an emotional reaction. You see what I mean? Last one, Revelation 12:12. This is very poignant, the kind of word that is used. Revelation 12:12. This is describing Michael defeating the dragon. You remember this, the woman and the dragon? And it says, "Rejoice then, O heaven, and you who dwell therein. But woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows his time is short." And did you catch that? The devil has come down to you in great wrath. So wrath is an anger. Again, an emotional word that is used. So what is being implied here? And these are just several of the more poignant verses. Sorry about the Psalms. Never mind. Anyway, it's in there. But you get the impression that the angels sing with rejoice. They rejoice over God's creation. They rejoice when a sinner repents. They have this sense of urgency when doing God's will for humans. There is a sense that in the unholy realm, they shudder, they fear. There's a sense of urgency that they have. So it implies that there is some kind or type of emotional reactions that they have that are not the same as humans. They're not quite the same because they're not motivated in the same way as our emotions are. Okay? You know, their stomach doesn't turn over and stuff like that, you know, because they don't have that. So they don't have what we would call a physiological response to emotion. Okay? Get out of here. Thank you. Sign in. Thank you.
Is this all available on your website? Are all these available on your website?
Yes, they will be. They're in PDF form.
Okay.
So, yes.
So the first couple classes that I missed are on the website? Okay.
So let's get to this part. So do they have emotion? The answer is yes. Apparently they do, but it's a different kind of experience because they're pure spirit. They don't have a physiological connection like we do with emotion. Because they don't have bodies, physical bodies, like we do. They have a spiritual nature, which is purely an intellect. They have pure intellect, will, and they have these kind of emotions.
Do they have intellect, will? They know.
Yes. Oh yes, they have will. They definitely have will.
In the case of Lot, he urged them because they know if they stay, Lot and his family stay, they will be killed.
Yes.
They will be destroyed. And also I just read it in Luke 19. When Zechariah, the high priest, go into, this is father of John the Baptist. Remember that the angel come in and tell him that your wife going to have a baby, and he laughed and he said, "Hey, my wife is barren."
Right.
And then the angel said, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and to tell you this good news, and now you will be silent." So they make a decision. He angered because Zechariah didn't believe in what he said. So he angered and he said, "You silent from now on to John, your son of God." And that's the truth. That's what has happened.
Yes. So you can certainly imply the anger of the angel for not being obedient, because the angels obey implicitly. They are absolutely virtuous beings. When we talk about angels, we're talking about the holy angels. They're absolutely virtuous beings. They have never known sin ever. 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 They are absolutely pure, virtuous beings. That's why we call them the holy angels of God. And they do have will. They made their choice to follow God in eternity past, when they were first created. They were given a choice to follow God or fall away from Him. It's just like Adam and Eve. Same thing. The difference is because the angels are pure spirit, and pure intellect. They not only fully understood whatever this test was, we're not told what the test was, but whatever the test was, they were not only fully aware of what they were deciding, but they were fully aware of the consequence of their action. This is what makes their choice irrevocable.
So there's no converting.
There is no conversion for angels. There is no redemption for angels. None.
So when they fall.
They fall and that's it.
But we can redeem.
We can be redeemed. Why? Because the sin of Adam and Eve was not in full knowledge of the consequence of what was going to happen. They knew they were going to die, but they probably did. It'd be like telling a child, you know, don't touch the stove. What do? They touch the stove, and then they burn their hands and they come crying to you. Right? They don't have a full understanding of that. An angel would. An angel would. Now the big mystery, here's the mystery of evil. Are you ready? This is the big thought that comes from this. What would motivate an angel to do that anyway? There was no sin. They had no sin. They had no inclination. They were all created holy. But for some of them, they chose freely, knowing full well the consequences. On top of that, and still chose to do it.
Disobedience.
Maybe they wanted to be greater than God, like Lucifer chose.
Well, and there's all kinds of speculation. We frankly do not know. What caused some of the angels to freely choose God and stay holy, and those did not and become what we now know as demons? Fallen angels, with their intellect completely darkened by sin, their natures completely corrupt by sin, by their choice, to the point where the fallen angels are these creatures of rage. They are devoid of reason. They are devoid of reason. This is why in an exorcism, and I've